influences, I would have thought. And that's down to the voice and the uniqueness of the voice. And kind of one of the things I've done with these recommendations is I'm a big fan of voices and unique and different voices. And
Yeah.
I'm quite into the idea that it's a little bit different.
Welcome to Eclectic Selections, the human music recommendation service. My name is Liam Flanagan and I'll be your musical guide, recommending you the best in music wherever and whenever it came from. You're currently watching our interview series where each month I interview a guest curator. These curators know music inside out and we'll be discussing top quality recommendations in depth. So now it's time for me to go over to either my past or my future self and this month's guest curator to see what recommendations they have for us. Welcome everybody to Eclectic Selections with our guest curator today is Pat Dooner from the Broken Orchestra, a hip hop duo from Hull, Yorkshire. How are you today, Pat?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very pleased to be meeting you.
Yeah, good to be meeting you too.
Learning about the recommendations that you've got for us today. So tell us a little bit about the Broken Orchestra. I know that you guys formed in 2010.
Yeah, absolutely. So we formed in 2010. It was mainly we're a production duo. The idea was we're working at a studio at the same time. In fact, the studio I'm sitting in now, we were both working at, and we needed some kind of way to fast track learning the gear and the equipment without working with paying clients to take their kind of valuable time up and work on kind of techniques and recording ideas and that kind of thing. And it just came across that we would just run some kind of experimental recording sessions together. So myself and Carl Conway Davis, who was the other side of the Broken Orchestra, and we just started running some sessions together, and it came out really naturally that we just started to get some cool little things going, and it just built from there really. And 2010, I think we released our first record that we put out, and we just built on from there. It's 10 years. We've just kept on with it, and I think we had a little bit of a hiatus at one point where we weren't as busy, but certainly the last sort of 3 or 4 years we've been busy with various projects, not just creating music. We've been doing various different things, and it's been good.
Yeah, I remember walking into Inkwell Records in York and your free demo being, there at the front of the shop, alone, and just being like, "Hey, you should check this out," because he knew his customers really well. And next thing I know, like, you're sending me a press. I'm getting in touch with you, and you're sending me a press kit. And
yeah,
I reviewed for my old blog, Sonic Fiction.
Yeah, it feels like such a long time ago. It's all kind of part. It's all kind of part of the journey, I guess. It's really funny sort of being involved in music because you just, it's been so long since those sort of things happened. But we've maybe taken a little bit of it's veered off and it's changed, and we've done different things between then and now. But the essence of it still remains the same in that it's just the two of us trying to do as much kind of interesting, creative kind of stuff that we can, really.
Yeah.
That's the way it started, and that's the way it's always been, with just various things happening along the way.
And you definitely a lot of stuff with your local partners and festivals. It's there in Hull. That seems to be a major part of what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. But certainly in the last couple of years, we've changed a little bit in terms of we do still release music commercially, and we're still like a production duo in that sense. But we've been doing various projects with festivals, kind of writing for different things. We've been working with Freedom Festival in Hull, they've been really supportive of what we've been doing. In 2019, we did an audio walk, which was called Fair Winds and Following Seas, and that was basically an audio tour of the River Hull. What was really interesting about the River Hull is it's been such a massively important part of the city, and there are parts of it that are still really overlooked that you can get access, but there's this kind of wealth of development that's happened at one side of it, and as you go further down, it's clear that it's been of huge importance to the city because there's industry and whatever else has happened over the years, but some of it's just been left. It was left kind of not derelict, but it was almost derelict. But there's some really interesting things to see, and what we found when we were walking it was your kind of view of it changes once you listen to music. So walking along that route, listening to music with headphones, you almost notice things more than you would do normally because you're aware of the situation. When you're kind of blocked off and all you can hear is the music.
Yeah, you have to you have to be very visually aware
absolutely,
of your world. Yeah.
Exactly. And you start to notice things along the way, and there were some really interesting kind of things that we picked up on. And we worked with a spoken word artist called Vicky Foster, who put some really interesting words to it. And one of the kind of main things about it was GPS tracked, so you could set off on your. The idea was you put your phone. It was an app on your phone, and you played this app on your phone, and then you went off, put your phone in your pocket, it went off, and just it went at your pace. So as you went past certain triggers, it would trigger the
Right,
next
yeah.
part of music, and that was the idea that we had. And it went down well. And I sparked us to think we're maybe more than just a production duo who can release music and gig and whatever else. It was more like, oh, great, what can we do and where can we go with this? And since we've managed to keep going with some real cool stuff, I think it's just the beginning of us for us really in that kind of area. I think we're heading definitely more into that area and less so into commercially released music, but it's there and it's always there. You always,
Yeah.
whenever you've released stuff commercially, it's always we must continue to do it because it's nice to make a 3.5 minute song.
I think it's great that you guys have diversified into other areas and you've kept it really interesting. Let's now move on to your first recommendation, which is Sea Lion Woman, the best of Nina Simone.
It's the main track that I was kind of interested in is Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, which is a real draw for me. That kind of track, I just love the honesty of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just something about it which resonates. A lot of music's about celebrating the triumphs of kind of life, and she's almost saying, I'm not perfect.
Really bore out by that documentary as well from a few years back.
Yeah, exactly. It was amazing, wasn't it? And I think when it comes to someone like her, you think already quite a lot about her, and when you see a documentary like that, it makes you realize, oh, there's quite a lot to her that I overlooked or didn't realize, and she's a character in the way that you don't get characters anymore in music. What a lady!
Yeah, I didn't realize how much she was involved with civil rights stuff.
Yeah,
and she's very passionate about the racial sort of politics and stuff like that. Because honestly, I'll put my hand up and say, before that documentary, I'd only heard the stuff that, well, a lot of it's on that compilation and stuff that I'd heard. It's those things that have been featured in adverts, or those things that were sort of her big, tunes like Feeling Good and Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood.
Yeah, just a big fan of her work in general. I wouldn't say I've digested a lot of her albums on their own. She's massively influential, and it was mainly that track really that really drew me into. So it's so raw and honest that it's incredible. Yeah. So
I always think that her voice is the thing that really stands out.
Yeah, absolutely. The voice thing's just. Yeah, absolutely, and it's so influential and so important to a lot of people. I think you'd probably be hard pushed to find any modern soul, particularly female artist, that hasn't been influenced by Nina Simone in some way. I'd imagine it's probably on the list of everyone's list of kind of influences, I would have thought, and that's down to the voice and the uniqueness of the voice. And kind of one of the things I've done with these recommendations is I'm a big fan of voices and unique and different voices, and I'm quite into the idea that it's a little bit different and a little.
I was going to say that's definitely something that's a thread through the Broken music, and I was going to ask if there's a vocalist or MC that you haven't worked with that you'd really love with.
There's loads of vocalists that I'd love to work with. What we're really interested in the moment is the tracks we're working on at the moment which we've done in the last couple of years or the last year, is work with people who we think we maybe wouldn't work with, if that makes sense. So the next few tracks that are going to come out are going to be, but the idea of like, how can we make this still sound like a Broken Orchestra song? There's something about the voice that's really interesting, but it's not someone we would normally go, oh, that'd be brilliant to work with them. It's like a little bit uncomfortable for us all, if that makes sense. And just kind of push those.
Grow, man.
Absolutely. And it's nice to produce stuff in that way because it forces you to think differently about things.
So your next recommendation is Things Fall Apart by The Roots.
It was a bit of a revelation, the Roots album, to me. That album was at a time when I was really into hip hop. Then I think I was about 14, kind of the age of 14, 15. I was big into Wu-Tang and bordering on kind of commercially kind of stuff. And I remember seeing the video on MTV Base, and it was like a bit of a standalone track on MTV Base. It was almost like, what's this doing on here? It was like there was a weird mix of stuff on there.
They do really stand out. I think the reason that album stands up now is because they don't sound like anyone else.
Once I listened to it, it was like, it was a real moments of being in complete awe of it. It was. I think the production of it. I think Black Thought is like incredible. I remember thinking like that rawness that he's got, combined with the subtlety and the intricacies of the production. It's just like
Yeah.
a match made in heaven. That album in particular, for me, is the best album they've ever done. That's my personal opinion. I
Yeah.
think they've struggled to match it. I remember being disappointed by Phrenology. I remember being disappointed by that, but that's just because I was expecting the same thing again. And as you get older and as you get more like sophisticated, it makes sense in the kind of grand scheme of things. But at the time, it was a real turning point for me. Still been into hip hop, thinking, oh, there's other areas of hip hop that are much more kind of sophisticated, but still contain that raw.
Yeah, I think of them as hip hop's Radiohead. But if Tom York was an OG from Philly,
yeah, that's really interesting way of putting it.
has that super experimental, super consistent catalog.
Yeah,
but it's still hip hop. It like I think if you're a hip hop head coming into it, I had the same experience. It's like but I came to it maybe 7-8 years ago.
Yeah,
I picked it up, and I was like, I knew its reputation, but I didn't really know what the music sounded like. And then you hear it, and you're like, this is the densest like hip hop I've probably ever heard. And I've listened to a lot of underground hip hop, but it's the production and then his rhymes and the way that he interacts with like the people like Dice Raw who they were bringing in at that point. It's this is super raw lyricism. He's very talented, but he's also ghetto with this production that's pulling on all these things from Black music history, but then also it's like super compressed drums and stuff, because he's trying to make it sound like a sampler, but he's actually playing it.
And
there's so much going on.
At that point, you don't know those things, and but you absorb it for what it is. And I think from what almost like a perfect hip hop record it's on, beneath the surface of it all, on the face of it, it's groove led. Like rhymes are great, it's simple, and all those things combined to make this kind of great kind of combination. I'm still a massive fan of it. I think it's probably up there with in my top 10 albums, probably of all time. But yeah, the roots have always held them quite high. Like you mentioned, the Radiohead thing of hip hop. I think that's a good kind of way of putting it. That it's going to be good quality, whatever they put out, it's going to be good, but you're not quite sure what it's going to be.
That's a very good description on it.
Thank you all for watching this video. If you want to support Eclectic Selections and join our community, there are various ways that you can do that. Number one, you can like, comment and subscribe right here on YouTube. This helps our video get noticed by the YouTube algorithm, and it helps other music lovers like you find great music. You can 2, follow us over on Twitter. Here you'll get the latest news and you'll get extra recommendations. You'll be able to keep up to date with everything Eclectic Selections. You can join our Ko-fi, which is just like Patreon, so you can support us and you'll get access to extra content like private playlists with loads of recommendations, extra video recommendations from our guests, all that good stuff. And there's more coming in the future. Join our Discord community where you can chat with other music lovers and myself about music and other subjects too. All the links for all of that down in the description in our link tree. Thanks again for watching, and until next Thursday, keep it eclectic.